Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC 314 from the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida. Paul Shaughnessy, Cody Safdie, producer Jared is on the sticks in this episode. And all episodes of the Dogger Pass podcast are brought to you by CoolBet. Use promo code Dogger Pass when making a new account to get a match up to $200 on your first deposit. It's a nice pay-per-view there, Codes. Fun pay-per-view. There's some fun fights top to bottom. Initial thoughts before we get into the action here there, bud.
Well, of course, we've been talking about so much regional show level MMA, mostly like every week, like a couple shows. And then this week there's a PFL and there's an LFA and we cover BKFC, that it's such a nice refresher to talk about not only just good MMA, but the best guys. And this is a proper UFC offering for sure. Pay-per-view quality. You talk about the main event, the co-main event, a bunch of the stuff that's on the main card, all stuff that I think has a lot of fan interest and a lot of anticipation. So main thing is, how do you turn a good card and a fun card into even better card? Is hit some winning tickets, and that's what we're here to try to do. So, looking forward to hearing your thoughts, breaking some of these down, figuring out who we can lock in.
The vacant featherweight title is on the line when Alexander the Great Volkanovski takes on Diego Lopes. Market loves Diego Lopes this week, who keeps seemingly getting shorter. It did get to a pick'em at one point, but a little bit of action came back on Volk, who sits at minus 120 right now. Comeback on Lopes is like plus 100. Here's where I stand on this fight. My concern is not in the skill and ability of Volkanovski. He was very competitive with Topuria in round one, and he got dropped in round two. I mean, you go back two fights against Islam Makhachev, and boy, oh boy, like in his home country, everything like that went toe for toe with what lots of people consider the pound for pound best fighter in the world right now in Islam Makhachev. And then got the second time that they faced off, took a knee pretty early in that fight, absolutely dies, game over. Topuria steps away from the belt. Diego Lopes steps in, and I will admit, buyer beware. It's like I've been wrong on Lopes a whole bunch along the way here. Him and Paddy Pimblett, who are both on this card, have probably over the last few years been like my biggest losers. Like, I fade these guys because I don't think they're actually that good, and they pull the rabbit out of the hat. Lopes, fair is fair. Like, the first 5 minutes against this guy is super dangerous. Like, he rocks Brian Ortega, this way to Sunday. Like, absolutely rocks him. Shots that I'm not sure Volk can take in that round one. And then the cardio falls off a little bit. Against Dan Ige, Dan Ige has a great chin. Gets off to a great start. Absolutely lands some absolute hammers. Round three against Ige, it's like, there's where I'm like, if Volk can survive, if Volk can get out of maybe the first 7.5, 10 minutes, I think he takes over late. We've seen it kind of over and over and over with him. The guys, that first like 3 or 4 minutes, it's like, you better be ready. You better be ready to eat some big shots. Like, Brian Ortega is almost impossible to knock out, and he almost knocked out Brian Ortega in that first round. But yeah, Ortega, had a nice round three against him. It's just like, he keeps such a pace that in a 5-round fight, if he doesn't get Volk out of there, Volk's going to take over and get the belt back. It's a bit of a cop-out. My pick will be Alexander Volkanovski. I don't know if I want to bet on pre-flop, though, because I expect Volk to probably lose at least round one. And then when we get into round two, we may have plus 170 or something like that if he doesn't get knocked out. I understand the steam coming in. I understand everything like that, but tough for me to get on board without, or tough for me to back him, because it's like in a 5-round fight, I've seen in round threes that Diego Lopes can't keep this pace. So add an extra 2 rounds into there, I don't think he has a shot late. Volk late props could be interesting as like a little way to get some action in before they start, but like Volkanovski live, just waiting for him to not get his head knocked off, which is obviously in play. That's how I would approach this fight. What about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Diego Lopez is a guy for me that when I watch the tape on him and I watch him compete, I'm not overly impressed, but he has a knack for finding the victory, whether he catches you in a submission, whether he just bum rushes you to knock you out. There's an undeniable fact that the guy finds a way to get his hand raised time after time. So now he's jumping into a UFC title fight. And for me, Alexander Volkanovski is a historic champion of the division. He's fought all the best guys of the division. Lopez is not even really considered the number three guy in the world right now. It's an interesting fight and it's a fun fight, and he's being thrown in there. As far as his jiu-jitsu goes, maybe the best of the division, but his offensive wrestling is really not all that good. I don't think good enough to take down a guy like Alexander Volkanovski and utilize his jiu-jitsu. So he needs to rely on Volkanovski taking him down in order to put that into play, and I'm not sure Volkanovski makes those mistakes. In terms of the striking, Paul mentioned this. It's like he's very good in that initial exchange, that first 5 minutes of coming out and really putting heat on you. But the longer it goes, he starts to slow. Now, being that Alexander Volkanovski is so short, head kicks have just been a very good weapon that guys have been utilizing on him. You saw Makhachev in the first fight throw it half a dozen times, and although it's getting blocked, it's just about to get through. The second time he goes ahead and he lands it flat out. Lopez doesn't really throw head kicks. He's low kick, big hook, low kick, big uppercut, low kick, big hook. There's no jab on him. There's no straight kicks. There's no head kicks. Striking's really not all that good. He's just blasting your lead leg, hoping you shoot in on him, or maybe catch you with an uppercut as you're shooting in on him. Now he's got someone in Alexander Volkanovski I think can easily take him down. But beyond that, just put pressure on him, put pace. When you look at Lopez, and it's hard to read because the fights are generally done very fast. But like Paul mentioned, this Dan Ige fight. Ige takes the fight on 8 hours' notice. Lopez is a colossal favorite. He lands 49 significant strikes over 15 minutes. That's not high volume. By comparison, his fight with Brian Ortega, right? That's a career best. He puts up 106 against just a very faded version of Ortega. But what's the best round for Brian? The third round. What was the best round for Dan Ige? The third round. Paul touched on all these facts. Is that Volkanovski's got backclass. He tends to build as a champion. He's dangerous all the way through. He's got superior volume. He's got the takedowns he can mix in. Lopez, no doubt he could throw up a submission and catch anybody. But you remember when Alexander Volkanovski fought a much better version of Brian Ortega that it wasn't, older and all banged up, but he got caught in a guillotine choke and a triangle choke. And it's like his submission defense is very, very good. What I can really appreciate is that when he loses that fight to Islam Makhachev in the rematch, he gets head kicked. It's less than 4 months. It's like 3 months, 3 weeks. He's back in the ring against Ilia Topuria. Wins the first round, gets caught in the second. Why would you, after getting devastatingly knocked out by a head kick, be back in less than 4 months later against a hitter like Topuria? Bad tactical error. Now he's coming in on like a 14-month layoff. And I know people are looking at it like, oh, he's been on the sidelines. I think he really gave his brain time to heal up, his body time to heal up. And this is his last crack at a world championship. It's a meaningful fight for him. So expect the best version of him, and the best version of him beats Diego Lopez. So I got him as well. What Paul's saying about live betting, like that too. But this is a pre-fight show for previews and picks. And so pre-fight, yeah, that's my guy, Alexander the Great.
Yeah. And yeah, people are be like, oh, these idiots are on Volk, so Lopez is free. And it's just like, if Lopez wins, it probably will feel like it's free. But if he doesn't get him out of there in the first couple rounds, I think he's in for a world of hurt. So Volkanovski for both of us. We move on to my other arch nemesis, Paddy the Batty. Paddy the Daddy. Um, haver of twins, Paddy the Daddy Pimblett, taking on Chandler, who just had a kid this week. So there's so much babe. I think the baby swag actually cancels each other out here. Paddy is a minus 150 favorite. Chandler can be at for plus 130. What's your take here?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like maybe I'm just getting caught chasing some value here, but I feel like Michael Chandler at plus money is someone that's he's fought the bigger fights. He's a proven commodity at the highest level. It's no disrespect to Paddy, but when you go back and you look at his regional show career, former Cage Warriors champion, yeah, but like when he goes up to 155, he's getting out-muscled by all those guys. Nat Narimani just throws him around. Soren Beck just throws him around. He's the betting favorite in Cage Warriors fights against European level talent, but at 155, like he's there to get tossed. The UFC's done an incredible job of building this guy up, right? When you consider his debuts against Luigi Vendramini hits him with a beautiful right hand to a left hook and then gets on top of him, but
Hmm.
he ends up beating him.
Yeah, I
Sure,
faded him there.
right, but it's like Vendramini had moments, man, right? Then you look at the Kazula Vargas fight. Kazula Vargas like partially touches him
I
with the
faded
right
him
hand,
there too.
bowls him over, and then sits on top of him for 2 minutes of control, 2.5 minutes of control time for Kazula Vargas. So I was like, whoa, whoa, these are layups. He wins them, the crowd goes wild, he gets submissions, but very, very low level talent has been able to at least have spots over him. Jordan Levitt. Now this fight's in London. And now he's renegotiated his contract, and the place is wild. And he's got the guys from Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, and they're wearing the wigs, and they're all excited. And Jordan Levitt takes him down 3 times. Yes, he beats Jordan Levitt, wins the first round, in my opinion, due to submission attempts and a little more damage, and then obviously puts him away in the second. But Jordan Levitt can't wrestle at all. So now you got Vargas racking up control time on you. Jordan Levitt taking you down 3 times. Luigi Vendramini touching you up on the feet a little bit and also getting on top. You run into the Jared Gordon fight. These are consecutive. We're not missing anything here. You run into a Jared Gordon fight where Jared Gordon almost universally, according to everybody on the internet, got robbed in that fight. Paddy does nothing. He sits there and he accepts it. Has the audacity to go to the press conference afterwards and say, I don't know what everyone's complaining about. I thought it was an easy win. He does nothing. So this is 4 straight fights. He's 4-0 in the UFC. They've built up a real good character. Everybody likes the memes. Everybody likes the Paddy the Baddy experiment. But he's not really like fought anybody good, and he certainly doesn't have any time thing that's resembling a signature victory. So they give him Tony Ferguson. Now Tony Ferguson's 41 years old at the time and on a 6 fight losing streak. And that probably goes down as his career best performance until the next fight against Bobby Green. But there's two things that happen here. Now Paddy's a huge star. He's still not proven anything to you. How good's his striking? How good's his wrestling? How good's his cardio? How good's his heart? How good's a lot of things about you don't know because he's very much still untested. But because he's a big star and his contract comes up, the UFC needs to renew. Now, Paddy Pimblett, if he wins a fight, he's making just under $500,000 from the UFC. So at some point, he's going to actually start having to fight actual contenders. But they give him a 39-year-old Bobby Green. Bobby Green's currently 1-4 in his last 5 fights. It's an aged guy. Hell, even Chandler. Chandler's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He's 38 years old. The UFC has done a very good job of building Paddy up. But this to me is a big step up in competition. Going back to that last fight with Bobby Green's winning on the feet. Why he shoots, I don't know. It's a great idea. Like, I think he's caught in a moment where it's like, oh, I got hit. I'm just going to shoot this reactionary takedown quick right into a guillotine choke, which he transitions to a triangle choke to put him away. But otherwise, it's like he's low volume on the feet. He'll throw some big hooks, but he's prone to get outworked. And it's not that Chandler's a volume guy, but if you just want to throw punch for punch with Michael Chandler, not a good idea. So now it's like take him down. It's like, I doubt it. Like Michael Chandler wrestled at Missouri collegiately. Yes, Charles Oliveira took him down 5 times in his last fight, but Charles and Paddy Pimblett, like it's a huge difference. People keep talking about Paddy's submission game. Well, what if Paddy does get him down? He'll just latch up the neck. This dude just fought 25 minutes with Charles Oliveira, 11
Hmm.
and a half of which Charles was on his back. And he didn't
Yep.
even catch a whiff of that rear naked choke. So is Paddy gonna submit him? Well, I've seen Chandler get knocked out before. Yeah, that's fair. In his last 5 fights, he's fought Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Charles Oliveira twice. None of which were able. Sorry, Charles the first time. But in his last 4 fights, he's fought Gaethje, Poirier, and Charles again. None of which were able to knock him out. So like you're it's kind of a reach. More than likely, Chandler's going to give him absolutely everything he can handle. He's by far the toughest guy he's ever fought. He lives and trains in Florida. The crowd is going to be hot in his favor, and he's going to go out there and he's going to do the damn thing. It's a 5-round fight. I've never seen Paddy fight 5 rounds in the UFC. I've seen him gas in Cage Warriors. Watch his fight with Julian Erosa, 145, Cage Warriors. Tell me this guy's going to go a hard 5 in the UFC. Well, you just don't know. Same thing with the hair. Is he going to be wearing cornrows, Paul? Is he going back to the Paddy the Baddy classic schoolboy look? I don't know. Would love to know, but I don't. But anyways, Michael Chandler, plus money. Seems like the pick for me. We got backclass. We've got a perceived skill advantage. He's in his home state. Not that he's from Florida, but of course resides there. Got to go Chandler for this number, man.
You know that like Arnold Schwarzenegger gif of him putting on like war paint? That's how I feel every
Predator.
Paddy. That's how I feel every Paddy Pimblett fight week betting against him. And I haven't bet it yet, but here's kind of my takeaways from it as well. I agree with a whole bunch of the stuff that you said. I do like Chandler money line, but it's like I know like the Paddy the Baddy bump, like fight day, lots of action will come in. I'm guessing Pimblett, and we may get better than the plus 130 that's out there right now in the market. But like even yeah, that Charles fight. A little bit like I think what gets lost in translation there. Yeah, he got taken down. Yeah, he got controlled. Yes, exactly how you said. Like he spent a lot of time on the mat, and really like submissions weren't even really particularly close. Watch that fight really, really closely. Well, with him, with Charles last time out. But it's like I think what gets lost in translation, people forget about is that like McGregor basically like forced this guy on the sidelines for 2 years. Like he looked rusty. He looked rusty in the first like 3 rounds for sure. Round 5, he actually cracked him. Cracked him. Had Charles backing up. Had him a little bit hurt. Charles like grabbing his eye and stuff.
15 shots to the back of the head, so you know he's willing to do whatever necessary to get the job done.
So, but like he was landing some shots on the feet there in round 5. I'm looking at the late props like round 4 and 5 for Chandler. They're pretty wide. I see like some plus 3,300 round 5, plus 2,800 for round 4. Um, I'll end up having money line for some Chandler. And yeah, I mean if Paddy passes this test, then onward like then he's on to, bigger and better things, fighting for titles and stuff like that. But that even Paddy against Ferguson, like he kind of blew his wad, and like
Ferguson had a big third round on him.
Chandler's going to make him fight that type of high energy, high intensity, high action pace in round 1. And it's just like if in round 3 what he did against Tony Ferguson, you know, the Tony Ferguson's so far past his prime at this point, hasn't won a fight in like 5 years, Tony Ferguson. If that's what you're doing, like just being able to get a takedown and hold position, but like on the feet, you're looking tired, you're backing up against Tony Ferguson. It's like I'd hate to see, Chandler, yeah, he may have gassed a little bit against Charles Oliveira, but it's like round 5, he got a second win. Does that second win happen for Paddy in this situation? I don't think so.
Well,
Um,
Chandler's fought guys like Eddie Alvarez back in his Bellator
mhm.
days where it's like hard 5 round fights where you're forced to dig deep. So yeah, again,
Yep.
when you talk about guys that at least had to do it. But yeah, you just remind me of that my last little theory on this one is Connor screwed this guy so bad,
Yeah.
man. 2 years he chased that fight. And the UFC's at fault as well because they were like, yeah, it's gonna happen and we're gonna book it and we're gonna put you guys on the Ultimate Fighter. And like at the end of the day, he just wasted his time. Maybe it was good for him. He's not getting in these car crash fights all the time. But as an older athlete, because he's 38 now, that was big. And then he comes out and what a company guy. He fights Charles Oliveira for 5 rounds in his first fight back. I honestly think that this is being like, hey, sorry you didn't get the McGregor fight. We're gonna give you the McGregor light. And because this guy's contract is built right now that he's making like 175 plus 175, we're looking for him to have to really show that he's a top contender because he's to this point not fought any real top contenders. We're going to put it in Florida. We're going to give you that big fight with the big name, and it's infinitely easier than Connor. Maybe, I don't know. It depends what version of Connor shows up, I suppose. But this feels like they're doing it as a thanks, Chandler. Thanks. We're going to give you the most. Everybody in the division wants this fight. We're going to give it to you. Why? Because Dustin Poirier would kill him, and Justin Gaethje would kill him, and Charles would kill him, and Arman Sarukian would kill him. And so we're going to give you the fight because it makes sense for Paddy as well, let's be real. But it's the fight that everybody wants, and they're giving it to Chandler. And I think them putting it in Florida, not the UK, is that
Mhm.
favor to Michael Chandler.
There are a lot of things working for Michael Chandler in this spot. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't understand the Paddy Pimblett love, but I haven't understood the Paddy Pimblett love a bunch, and it's cost me a lot of money. So yeah, good luck, Cody, because like Diego Lopez, Paddy Pimblett, they just steal my lunch pretty much every single time that they fight. But you know. Nobody likes a quitter.
Yeah,
Nobody likes.
I
You
got
gotta keep. If you have an opinion, you gotta keep firing, or you may miss the opportunity to actually click. So Chandler for both of us, Alexander Volkanovski for both of us. We move on. We've got Yair Rodriguez taking on Patricio Pitbull. Good Pitbull.
good Pitbull.
Um, Rodriguez a minus 200 favorite. Pitbull can be had for plus 170. I don't love Patricio at 145, especially against a guy like this. I feel like I've seen this fight. It's kind of against Boric, but like Boric didn't have the submission grappling either. And I think Yair is going to be a little bit smarter and like Pitbull did great in that fight, but it was like Boric basically like jumping knees and stuff that caused the takedowns and the control time and everything like that. Yair has been out grappled before, but he's got a lot of, physical advantages in this fight. Yair's the pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like Patricio Freite, people will obviously disagree because he spends so much time in Bellator, but pound for pound, when you talk about guys that are like can fight multiple weight classes and be successful, like this guy's as good as anybody I've ever seen. He's 5'5" with like a 64-inch reach, and he has got KO wins over guys like Benson Henderson and Michael Chandler, and he's maybe not Benson Henderson. He knocks Michael Chandler absolutely out. And then, yeah, he's got 3 wins over guys like Daniel Strauss that could have cut it at one point. Wins over Manuel Sanchez, Pat Curran, Juan Archuleta. As far as AJ McKee, those are all guys that could cut it in the UFC. But he just spent so much time in essentially a B League promotion, winning their title and competing there, that he's at a point now at 37 years old in a lighter weight class that it feels like the best days are kind of behind him. He left them on the table. Now, again, he's got legendary wins, but when Paul says, I feel like I've seen this matchup before, yeah, so do I. And it's not the Borch fight. It's his last fight against Jeremy Kennedy and both of his fights with AJ McKee. So AJ McKee's 5'11, Jeremy Kennedy's 5'11, Patricio's 5'5. And you see in both those fights that he really struggles to get inside. He is a natural striker. He doesn't overly rely on his wrestling, although he can take you down. He's just not that guy that's gonna hold you down for 15 minutes, for 25 minutes. It's something that it's a wrinkle in his back pocket, like Jose Aldo had it in his. But predominantly, he's just looking to murder you with one of these punches. Now, considering this guy is a natural 135er that's been fighting his entire career at 145 and once went to 155 and knocked out Michael Chandler to avenge his brother, the guy is absolutely a dynamite power puncher.
He's a
But
badass.
you start to get older and you start to leave something a little bit behind. Well, yeah, Rodriguez, he's not the most durable guy in the world. We have seen him get knocked out. But again, he's 6 years younger. He seems to just have way more volume, has way more length, way more reach. He's faster. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. It's a big cage. It's not in the apex. There's going to be a big surface to work with. And yeah, Rodriguez is very tricky. He's very hard to get a beat on. You end up sitting there flat footed, waiting for him to do something. And all of a sudden, he's touching you with side kicks. All of a sudden, he touches you with the straight left. And all of a sudden, he's at a dodge. You really got to barrel down on this guy. And I don't know that this version of Patricio is able to do that. If you watch back his last fight with Jeremy Kennedy, there's a strong argument that Jeremy Kennedy's up 2 rounds, or if not, very competitive the first 2 rounds, without even attempting a takedown attempt, just striking because of the length. Now you got Yair, who is a striker. That's going to be a problem. He fought in Japan, that Super Rising show against Chizuru Suzuki. He took that fight on like a week's notice, up at 155. He gets knocked out. His fight before that was Sergio Pettis. He lost all 5 rounds on two judges' scorecards and had 149-47 or 149-46. He can't get a beat on Sergio Pettis. There are levels to this, and I just feel like he's had a lot of fights and he's a little bit older. He can beat a bunch of the guys in the division, but to fight Yair Rodriguez as a first fight in the UFC is a very, very tough task, and I feel like that's where Yair is going to get the job done. The key to being Yair, and we've seen this time and time again, is the wrestling. Everybody who wants to take him down can do it. Brian Ortega, the 3 takedowns leads to the submission.
Mhm.
Volkanovski with 7. Max Holloway back in the day with 3. Jeremy Stevens took him down 3 times. There's no doubt about it. If you're a good takedown artist and you want to stick to that game plan, that's the key to beating him. But Patricio A is not going to do that. And B, in his UFC debut, with a big old contract and high expectations and a red hot live crowd that he's never fought in front of a crowd like this before. He's been stuck in Bellator, right? He's fought Japan in big shows, but they're quiet in Japan. It's a different type of crowd. Florida
Mhm.
crowd, right? And this pay-per-view show, I think he's just going to be like, you know what? I'd rather pick up a 50G fight of the night than win a boring decision. And that type of mentality should really help Yair Rodriguez out. So distance is the name of the game. Fight a Lerone Murphy type game plan. Fight a Yusuf Zalal type game plan. But because of his proportions and his speed advantage, he's capable of doing exactly that. Wonder Boy him. Touch, gone, touch, gone, touch, gone. Don't get caught in the moment. Don't brawl in the pocket with this guy. Mind your P's and Q's. Yair Rodriguez outpoints him.
All right, we got Gian Silva taking on Bryce Mitchell, minus 255 for the Lord. Gian Silva, Bryce can be had for plus 215. Who you got?
Yeah, this is like this week's Pat Sabatini from last week, right? Against Joanderson Brito, where it's like I can win this fight with ground control and takedowns and make it look effortlessly, or I'm going to lose and I'm going to get knocked out in the first round. Like there's not going to be really a middle ground here. I understand 100% that I got a big power puncher here in Jean Silva that, you know, if he hits Bryce Mitchell, especially when you look at that Josh Emmett fight, that he could knock Bryce Mitchell out. I get that. But I just don't think he's ever fought a grappler of this level. I don't think he's fought a wrestler of this level. I don't think he's particularly that smart of a guy. I think he's over crediting his power. All of his fights, he just daps these guys up and laughs and has a good time and then uncorks some bombs. But he's really done throwing a rock out of hornet's nest here, you know? Like the term is don't poke the bear. Well, he done pissed him off, man. And my biggest beef on Bryce Mitchell is that he's not at a gym with other training partners. He's mostly just doing his own thing in Arkansas, and I'm not sure how much better he's realistically going to get. His striking's not good. His striking's certainly not good enough to hang out with Silva on the feet. So he needs to shoot early and often, all the time, get this fight to the ground. And if he does, I think he can win this thing. It's striker versus grappler, 100% it is. But what I will say is that Gene Silva's just become everybody's baby. He doesn't really have any big wins. He's beaten Weston Wilson, Charles Jourdain, who's a 35er, Drew Dober on a cut stoppage, and Melsik Bagdasaryan. So he doesn't really have any like quality victories. But and yet everybody likes him. He's got a great personality. He's fun to watch. He's vibrant and he's always hyper and he's buying into his own stuff as well. Like you did these interviews with him. He's like, I am the UFC. I am the next Conor McGregor. I stole the show at that press conference and I can't wait for you guys to see more. I've been dreaming about this since I was a little boy. I have all these antics and I have all these things. Like he's just caught up in the moment, which is cool. It's fun to see a guy who realizes his dreams. It's absolutely cool. I like this guy. I absolutely like this guy. But are we buying past the fact that perhaps his ground game's not that good? Are we buying into the fact that perhaps maybe he's just such a fan favorite that we assume he's going to knock these guys stiff? Again, Drew Dober's chin's not exactly what it used to be, but he did take all of Gene Silva's best shots. Kevin Vallejos on the Contender Series, he was able to hurt Silva to the body, but also took all of his best shots. So even though he's a big power puncher, I don't think he's got the touch of death. He touches Bryce one single time, it's over. As much as don't keep this on the feet. Got to find a way to get it to the ground. But you look at the Charles Jourdain fight. Charles Jourdain takes him down 3 times. And Charles Jourdain is a terrible wrestler, but also he fights at 135 now. The fact that he's taking Gene Silva down is problematic. His next 2 fights after that, Drew Dober and Melsik Bagdasaryan, both kickboxers. Well, Bryce is not going to kickbox him. Bryce is going to shoot takedowns. You know, he competed at a state qualifier in high school. That's what his base is. He's a BJJ black belt. He's very physically strong. When you look at Bryce Mitchell, if you're beating him, Ilya Topuria, he claims he was sick, but all the same, it's like he arguably won the first round against Topuria and took him down while he's allegedly sick. That fight with Josh Emmett, oh my God. But he's taken time off. He came back. He got the win over Kron Gracie. Obviously on top. There's nothing Gene Silva's really going to do to get him off, I don't think. The wrestling goes towards Bryce Mitchell. You don't have to like a guy, but you have to respect that he is talented and he has some skill. And what I'm really seeing here is it's a striker versus grappler. Everybody hates Bryce, understandably so. What a bozo this guy is. But everybody hates him and everybody loves Gene Silva. That's what the line looks like. They're completely discrediting that this is a fight that could go both ways. It's closer to 50-50. And just like Pat Sabatini last week, oh, he's going to get hit once and he's going to get knocked out. What if he doesn't? What if he just gets the takedown? Are you confident that Gene Silva's ground game's that much better? And fighting nerds, we all love the fighting nerds, but they all fight a specific game plan. This guy don't. He's a wild man. He's like the Stray. He goes off and does his own thing, and he ups his opponent, and he laughs, and he has a great time. And this is a fist fight, dude. So the last thing I'll say is Bryce over the years, because he's likely got mental illnesses, is that he's very like, I don't want to hurt nobody, and Lord Jesus Christ is calling me in this direction. I just like to compete, and I didn't think I'd ever fight against the Josh Emmett. Like it hasn't been. It looks like he's lost his edge. The dude that dog walked Edson Barbosa, clipped Barbosa, took him down at will. Like that guy's kind of gone. But see what happened here is Gene Silva done pissed him off. And now it's like he's carrying a chip on his shoulder where it's like the Lord has made me his chosen warrior, and I need to defeat this devil who's got these demons, who's plaguing my dreams. Bro, when you start thinking like that, you become a dangerous dude because you're on a mission. And man, on a mission is a very dangerous thing. So you don't have to like the guy, but you have to respect the fact that he's got a better ground game, and ground game usually wins a lot of these fights. So for this number, I got to go with Bryce Mitchell.
The numbers really crashed pretty hard. There are lots of other Bryce Mitchell supporters out there in the market right now. Like last week, it was like plus 350, plus 330, and it's crashed all the way down to like plus 250. And it got down to plus 210, 211. 205 actually was like the lowest that it got earlier on today. So there are people seeing the same things as you. You're not on some sort of island here. Yeah, the number maybe the number was a little bit crazy last week. I still think John Silva knocks this guy's head off. I believe in the fighting nerds to have a good game plan in place here. They know the matchup that they're going. They called this guy out specifically right after the fight. They knew that this was like, striker versus grappler. You just got to keep this thing upright, and it's not even going to be competitive.
That's
I
true.
like Silva to win. I like Silva to win by knockout. Silva to win by knockout round one. Those numbers, I'll be looking for those numbers over the course of the week, see if I actually get to them. But yeah, Silva KO official pick. And this isn't like I'm not okay before because me and Cody talked about this fight a little bit in advance. This isn't like Gauthier versus like where I was just like dead set that there's no way John Silva can lose this fight. Like I felt that way about Atiba Gauthier, but I don't feel that way about this fight. Like I do see that like yeah, Charles Jourdain was able to take him down and like make him at least scramble and stuff over the course of the time that fight was taking place. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Bryce Mitchell gets takedowns in at least 2 out of 3 rounds and wins this fight. Maybe even takes him down and just his grappling so much better he locks up a twister or some other type of submission. It's not like the Gauthier fight because like the Gauthier fight is just like well. I know you could probably exploit this guy's wrestling, but Medina doesn't know how to wrestle. So it's like yeah, I just saw like one-way traffic all the way through on that fight, and it's kind of how it played out. I do have enough respect for Bryce Mitchell, a guy who's went in there and competed against the likes of like Edson Barbosa and pulled off victories against a credited striker in his career. So it's not like hashtag free money by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going on the other side. We were due for us to disagree on a fight here, Cody. Let's move on to the next one. We got Nikita, the minor Krylov, returning from God knows where. I'm taking on Dominick Reyes. Krylov, a minus 175 favorite. Reyes can be had for plus 150 at this current time. I took Reyes plus 165. And I just think that Reyes has been kind of disres. He had such a horrible run, knocked out by Span, knocked out by Jan, knocked out by Prohashka. So two of those guys top of the division. Span's always a dangerous guy early. It's like the guy almost he got to the top of the mountain, but never really got the fruits of that, right? That fight against John Jones was such a moment for him, and everyone's just like he should have won, everything like that. And then he goes on this horrible run. And then took some time off, disappeared. The guy that I've seen came back against like just Dustin Jacoby. It's like he's kind of like a man on the mission. And here's as somebody I took him plus 165, Reyes. Here's what I hope. Because like if go back, watch the Anthony Smith fight last time out. I want to see like when he's staring down Anthony Smith across the cage, just like I want to see, as a better of Dominick Reyes, I want to see that look in his eyes. I'll be looking for that on Saturday night when they step in the cage because that look in his eyes is a guy who's like believes in himself again. It sounds like he kind of like, you have a losing streak like that after having such highs. You kind of stop believing in what you're able to do. But two fights back in business. I just think he's kind of disrespected still in the market. Krylov, he's been gone for what, like a year and a half or something at this
2 years.
point. Of course, it's light heavyweight. Both of these guys can crack. Krylov has had some success wrestling, but Dominick Cruz over the course of like John Jones went 2 of 9 on takedowns against him. I just think Dominick Reyes has the better volume as a striker, the cleaner boxing at least. Krylov can throw some nasty kicks. It's definitely in play, but at dog money, I think it's Reyes for me. What about you? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think it's Reyes. I know it is because that was my first click this
yeah.
week.
Yeah, no, I got Dominic Reyes as well. I can't quite figure this line. I mean, even if it's a 50-50 fight, it's a close competitive fight and both guys can win, and I can see that. It's like, I don't know why you would want Nikita Krylov on a 2 year long layoff at this kind of number. So yeah, I got Dominic Reyes, who for him, I think he's got all the skills, but it's been a confidence thing. And Paul mentioned it. He goes on a 4 fight losing streak, capped off by a loss to Ryan Spann. Oh, but it's like,
Ugly.
yeah, you'd feel so shit about yourself. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, can I still do this? He takes some time off. He comes back and then he starts building himself up, gets that 2 fight winning streak together. Krylov, meanwhile, is like Krylov does to me appear to be faster than Dominic Reyes, and he's a little bit sharper. His technical striking is good, but he fades. He fades in all of his fights. It's been a trademark of him for a long time. Now, when he's in really good physical shape, he can push that pace, but he oftentimes needs to get it done quick. When you look at him, he's got 30 pro wins and something like 26 finishes. He's a potent finisher, but 3 round fights have not exactly always been his friend. Now, I remember when I got him versus Volkan Uzdemir, I was like, oh, I'm talking about how I think he's going to win. And then he takes Volkan down 7 times. I didn't see that coming. I had him winning. I didn't see him take 7 times. That feels like a lifetime ago, Paul. And it's literally just 2 fights back. But see, he's supposed to fight Brian Spann February 25th, 2023. It's gonna headline a fight night event at the Apex. He weighs in at 206 pounds, pulls out the day of the fight with an illness. So what the illness is, I don't know, but we've seen it happen before and nothing to write home about. Tapology will tell you then he pulls out of a fight with Azamat Murzakanov, November 16th, 2024. It says that Murzakanov was the one that pulls out. But Krylov actually tears his shoulder, and he's had like a bad arm issue that he's been working through. Now, crazy rumor that obviously didn't happen, but originally they said he died in the war. Apparently, he is Ukrainian. He's born in Ukraine. He got kicked out of a gym in Kyiv in 2014 for wearing a Russian flag to training in the gym. Since then, he's resided in Russia. He has almost no social media, and nobody knows what the hell he's been up to
He
for the
trains with
last
Bill
2 years.
Staney, the guy from Bellator.
Yeah, the big old Russian heavyweight. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah, who's
he's
like
renounced.
I don't think is that great to be perfectly honest. Like that's if you go to his Instagram, that's who you see him training with mostly.
Yeah, and you know how like when Russia gets in trouble, the Olympics will allow Russian athletes to compete, but they won't put their flag up. They just kind of like got the globe and it's grayed out. It's like the international flag. Like that's what he's been repping. He does not rep the Ukrainian flag. He's been repping the international flag because they're not giving him the Russian one. But from everything I've been reading up on, he's like very pro-Russian. No, they don't really know what he's been up to for 2 years, but now it's time to take a fight. So I bet you this guy's skills are all sharp. It's that it's a 2 year long layoff. He's pulled out of fights due to last minute illnesses. He used to fight at heavyweight, so a cut back down to 205 is not the easiest thing going. He has 39 pro fights. I think his body's hurting him. He's coming off a 2 year long layoff. He's not been training at an optimal level, and he's coming right back into a fight versus a guy arguably beat John Jones when he's at his best. So plus money, Reyes makes a lot of sense to me. And then yes, when you look at Reyes versus Anthony Smith his last time out, like outstrikes him like 125 to 40, like just triples him up. That fight's done in the second round. Reyes is really starting to pour it on. He's an athletic guy, used to play football, not at a high level, but athletic big man. Yes, he's 35, but at 205 pounds, that's really not an end of the game scenario. I just feel like he's going to slowly outwork him and put up volume. First round is going to be close. And if Krylov's going to spring up a knockout or a submission, it could be in the first round. That second round, all of a sudden, it's a Dominick Reyes round. That third round is Reyes all day long. I just needed to get there, and I needed to build that way and be 1-1 going into the third, which I think we can do. If it was lines flipped, maybe you make a chance for puncher's chance, and Krylov's a finisher, but
Yeah.
him as the favorite, he's very untrustworthy in a position like this. So I'd take Dominick Reyes as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was flipped, you'd go, well, then you start trying to sell yourself on the
Span
fact that,
beat
like,
him.
well,
Anybody
yes,
can.
Span knocked him out. The guy's
Yeah.
chin has been rocked multiple times, and he's only beaten Jacoby. It's a numbers game, right? It's just like at this point, yeah, I mean, as I said, go back, watch him in the intros on like Fight Pass or whatever against Anthony Lionheart Smith. Tell you who is the lion in that situation. He's got this look in his eyes that's just like, I'm gonna murder this guy. So it's like I'm gonna be looking for that on fight night. And if I don't see that look in his eye, I may get a little bit nervous. But I'm hoping that he's all the way back at this point because the guy obviously had tons of talent. He gave John Jones his best test, at least. Probably his best test at one, or sorry, at 205. A
Yeah,
lot of
and
people
not,
thought he won that fight.
and then not only that, but his fight with Yuri Prochazka, like he wins the first round, he looks really good, and then he gets caught. He gets caught by a
Hmm.
spinning back elbow. Like, well, Yuri Prochazka tends to do things like that.
Yeah.
But he's competed at the highest of the highs and done well for himself. His confidence got low. He got a little shaky. If that's in the rearview mirror, then he can make this thing look real good. And that plus money, yeah, I think it's something we can both get behind.
All right, we got Sean Woodson taking on Dan Ige, minus 170 for Woodson. Ige can be had for plus 145. Your thoughts on this one?
So like at first glance, it's Sean Woodson all day long. And then for Dan Ige, it's like, man, how many times are you gonna take a shot on this guy's an underdog? And he'll give it a real good go, but he doesn't win. He doesn't win, right? Is that gonna be another one of these situations for him? Little low output for me, way too short. How's he gonna get in on the inside? Like you don't like it, but got a nagging suspicion that Woodson's going to be one of these guys that roasts the apple pie this week, just because I feel like he's low key a little bit chinny. I feel like low key maybe he's not the best athlete. He prods out this long jab. He fights like a big tall guy with a big reach, but a faster fighter that can get inside the pocket, land these shots up top, maybe threaten up a couple takedowns. That's going to give him a lot of problems. He's on a nice little win streak right now. And again, you always hate to just discredit guys' wins. He's beating UFC caliber fighters. That's fair. But Fernando Padilla, his last time out, well, this guy's no good. Bruce Leroy, we all like Bruce Leroy, but it's not like he's anywhere near the top 15. Charles Jourdain, it's a split. Shouldn't have been a split. Should have been a unanimous all day long. But Charles Jourdain fights at 135 now, and it was actually a pretty competitive fight in its own way. And Dennis
Mhm.
Bazookia, that's his 4-fight winning streak. The draw right before that's Luis Saldana. Luis
Yeah, I
Saldana
watched that.
drops him twice. Everything he seems to hit him with just completely takes away all of the balance, just completely discombobulates Woodson. Now, Dennis Bazookia is not really a puncher. Jourdain's flashy, but not a big puncher. Bruce Leroy's a grappler. Fernando Padilla doesn't really do anything all that good. So is he chinny? I'm not fully sure. Like he's big and he's tall and he's got a tall man defense. And with Dan Ige's got a bunch of these first round knockouts. He knocks out Andre Fili in the first round. He drops Nate Landwehr. Doesn't knock him out, but knocks him down. He knocks out Damon Jackson out in the second round. He knocks out Gavin Tucker out in the first round. He knocks out Mike Santiago and chokes out Danny Henry, I suppose, but knocked him down before that. Knocked down Kevin Aguilar. He's got really fast hands, and he's good at catching opponents off guard. Even his last fight against Lerone Murphy, he registers a knockdown over Murphy. He's very tricky at getting to the target and hitting you with something you don't quite see coming. Woodson, I can't really say he's fought a power puncher of this level. Not that Ige is a power puncher. But I don't know that Woodson's fought a guy even with this much amount of power, who has this much amount of experience. Could Ige not mix in takedowns? He took down Lerone Murphy. He took down Josh Emmett once upon a time. He does have some wrestling in his back pocket. Takedowns over Mirsad Bektic and Edson Barbosa. Um, could he not mix in takedowns, get to the target, flash some hand speed? Likely, volume wise, he's going to get outworked. I do believe that to be true. But if he knocks him out, then who cares about the volume? And even if you're getting outworked, you're relying on a guy just jab, leg kick, flashes his hands, Nate Diaz style slap, jab, jab, versus the other guy that's exploding into the pocket with a quick 2-3 punch combination. Now you need to favor the judges that even if I'm getting outworked, if I'm landing the bigger shots, if I can mix in a takedown along the way, Dan Ige can make this thing real close. I think it's likely going to decision. If it finishes inside the distance, it'll be Ige by knockout.
Hmm.
If it goes to decision, Woodson might outwork him. But keep in mind his last two fights is Lerone Murphy and Diego Lopes, both of which went to decision, both of which he gave them a hell of a go. Lopes is now fighting for a title. Ige took that fight at 8 hours' notice. Lerone Murphy just won last week, headlining a card. Looked really good doing it. Bryce Mitchell also on this card in a noteworthy level of fight. He's fought Movsar Evloev to a competitive decision. He's fought Josh Emmett. He's fought Korean Zombie. He's fought Calvin Cater. And he's not old and he's not shot. He just takes a lot of bad fights and not going to be pretty when
Can't
you're fighting the
wrestle.
best guys all the time. He comes from a wrestling background, but it's a Hawaiian wrestling background. And you're right,
He can
Paul.
offensively wrestle a bit, but his takedown defense has always been shaky. That's usually the key to beating Dan Ige, but what it really comes down to here is like I went back and watched that Bazookia fight because I'm like, that's the one fight that's like, okay, we got four takedowns there. And it's just like a lot of takedowns were like, catching kicks. Like they weren't like your typical,
Foot
you know,
sweeps. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And it's like Ige, even against Lerone Murphy last time out, one gets a knockdown in round one, like hurts him pretty bad, wins round one against Lerone Murphy, who's like, top of his game right now, moving up the ladder, still loses. And why it kind of came down to the takedowns and control time and everything. It's like that's kind of what happens with Dan Ige in a lot of fights. I'm just not so convinced Sean Woodson's that guy. Not so convinced he's able to do that. I watched the Saldana fight and it's just like, yeah, a couple. Frankly, it's like a cup. Saldana made the biggest mistake on earth. It's like he actually like kneed him in the head after he had knocked him down. He went in, charged in, knees him in the head. It's just like if
Yeah,
that
loses
doesn't
point.
happen and he doesn't give Woodson that extra bit of time to recover, that could have ended up being an L. Had a point taken in that fight as well. And then yeah, I guess Padilla, that was, he went into a gunfight, got into a firefight with a firefighter and came out. So like credit where credit's due on that front. But I don't think Dan Ige is gonna respect a lot of the stuff. Like he's stood in there with Diego Lopes, eating shots from Diego Lopes early in fights. Like I don't think he's going to respect much that's coming from Sean Woodson. So he's going to be stepping in the pocket, unleashing hammers. You know me, I like the finishing props and stuff. So Ige by KO has my attention, but Ige money line plus 145 also has my attention. I mean, probably not much is going like I know what the weigh-in's going to look like between the two of them. Maybe I wait a little bit because like maybe people like, bet the tall guy. So I'm not in a hurry to like jump on the number right now, but like I think at plus 145, Ige is totally fine on the money line. And like Ige KO is like plus 350. I don't hate it. I
No, I don't
don't
hate
hate
that.
it. I don't hate it at all. Because, yeah, the one thing that, like, I just not convinced that, like, Woodson can stick to a wrestle heavy approach where he's got to go way down to get to those hips to get these takedowns against Dan Ige. And if he does take him down, I'm not convinced he's able to hold Dan Ige down. And Ige's got some half decent like Ige's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, apparently. I mean, everyone's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, apparently,
No,
but
he is.
like he's got some submission ability at the very least. And like I mean it's more so like defensively in his grappling. It's just like he's very good at like not getting finished. So yeah, I think he is gonna win by knockout. So like the dog shot there. Next one we got Virna Jandiroba taking on Xiaonan. Minus 140 for Virna plus 120 for Xiaonan. I mean, if you're like doing like a video game character, like Virna Jandiroba's skills would be so low on so many different things, except her wrestling ability, grappling ability, and scramble master. Like it's not pretty. Here's the thing of her is just like the stats. She is not a stat friendly. If you're playing like DFS or something like that this week, it's just like unless she gets the sub, which is definitely on the table, Verna's probably a pretty horrible play. Second, Yeah, she got a second round submission and landed two significant strikes in you know, with 6 minutes and 27 seconds of control time. And got a second round finish of Amanda Lamas. It's not pretty. She kind of just like jumps at like the single leg, tries to grab it. But it's like once she gets a hold of that, she just wins every single one of those scrambles. So it's like you can't let her get close. And it's so much easier said than done. Hebus was able to do it. Mackenzie Dern, who's, I mean that fight kind of came down to like Virna's like, I'm not so sure I wanna, dance with the with Dern on the mat because obviously Dern has world-class jiu-jitsu in her own right. But it's like other than that, it's just like everyone knows what she's going to do and she does it. I don't really intend to bet Jandiroba, but I'm not fading her either. I'll pick Jandiroba for a very frustratingly, if you bet Yan Xiaonan, you'll be like, this is the better fighter. When they're on the feet, she'll be, landing at will. But it's like the moment Virna gets a hold of you, she gets it to the mat and then she just controls you until the end of the round. Virna's the pick. I don't think I'm gonna force a bet on it though. What about you?
I want to take Virna. I love Virna because you know what she's going to do, and she's damn good at it. You don't got to stress about her making a mistake and not finding the game plan. Like, she fights to her best skill set. And as Paul mentioned, it's like if she takes you down, it's one of two things, a double leg or a single leg. And if she botches the single leg, she either falls back for a leg lock, uses the 50-50 position to reverse and end up on top, or she just goes to a deep half guard sweep, goes to a 50-50 position, and ends up on top. She's very physically strong, man. I mean, but their technique, in terms of the wrestling, the technique, especially in the striking, it's not great. It's just he does make up for it in just a very good tenacity, sticks to her target, gets you to the ground, and then just zaps up control time. It's that I honestly think this fight probably ends up going to decision, and I'm looking for someone that's going to do the damage. The new scoring criteria is apparently damage. It's a live crowd. They're looking for damage. This is Virna's problem. She beats Angela Hill, right? By decision. But she got outstruck 21-14. And Marina Rodriguez, she gets 12 minutes of control time. But she got outstruck 33-27. And Lupe Godinez, her last time out, she goes 2 for 9 on
2 times ago.
takedowns. Yeah, 2 fights ago, Lupe Godinez, she goes 2 for 9 on takedown attempts. Her fight back with Angela Hill, that's 4 fights ago, she goes 3 for 8 on takedown attempts. She
Mhm.
doesn't get them first cracker all the time. It's a lot of her diving at the leg. It doesn't
Mhm.
look pretty, but as
No.
Paul mentioned, a scramble ensues. She usually ends up on top after that. But she got outstruck by Angela Hill, outstruck by Marina Rodriguez, outstruck by Lupe Godinez, and then as Paul mentioned, her last fight went for 9 minutes and 48 seconds before she got the finish by armbar. She had landed 2 significant strikes. So even if she's racking up control time, as long as you can do a little damage, land some short elbows, win some striking exchanges, survive on the ground once it hits there, then there's a good chance that maybe in a close competitive fight, they'll just edge it your way. Now, when you think about Lemos and Lupe Godinez and Marina Rodriguez, Angela Hill, they're all good strikers. Yan Nan's a good striker as well, but she has a high degree of power. She hurt Zhang Weili on the feet. She knocked out Jessica Andrade. She's kind of just got the more power. She can land even just a big shot, but get taken down and controlled for 3 minutes. Maybe she can persuade the judges. But the angle for me personally and why I think it's a 50-50 fight, one, CF top model, baby. But two, Yao Jianin trains at Team Alpha Male. She's been there for like the last 3 years. I would just hope at some point her wrestling eventually does get okay. Her takedown defense does become okay. You saw in the Zhang Weili fight, taken down 6 times, controlled for like 12 and a half minutes, but had some decent spots of grappling here and there. It's that Virna Jandiroba is also trained at Team Alpha Male. In fact, they both trained together as teammates at Team Alpha Male. So I'm really hoping that Jan's seen, a couple of these setups. She's felt her on the mat. She knows her setups for the submissions. She's learned a thing or two from her. And they're both a little bit older, especially by division standards. But Jan's 35, but Virna's 36. She wears a knee brace. Like at some point, those takedowns don't come as fast. At some point, she doesn't win all of those scrambles. At some point, she's just gonna get beat up and get outlanded. And the judges are going to get it wrong. So it comes down to a numbers game for me. And I just don't want to bet Virna as the favorite. I really don't. So probably PRP pick because I have no confidence. Love Virna. Love what she's doing. Could see her winning this fight. Yeah, but I could also see it going the other way. And if we're going to flip a coin on this one, give me the side that pays more. So I'm going to take Yao Jianan to get the job done.
All fair points. All fair points. I don't plan on betting this fight at all. If I were to, it would be like Virna sub. Um, but I wouldn't even touch the money line. It's just like, and I know that she could win by decision. They can go, they can go the distance, but I see like it's creeping up towards like plus 300. Maybe I play Virna sub, but like, yeah, she's never gonna win a numbers game. She's never like the stats. I'm on UFC stats. You scroll through it. It's just like she's quite literally never won a significant. She beat Felice Herrig 4-1. Um, and I guess she Kanako Murata.
Oh, broke her arm.
Murata,
Yeah, Murata broke her
36
arm.
to 23.
But the girl had one arm.
Otherwise, she loses every significant strike battle ever, but she wins every scramble, and that's really like her entire game.
Yeah, but Zhang Weili physically chokes Yan out unconscious, and then she like seizes up, back to from the dead, and almost wins
Mhm.
the fight after that. So at the very least, you know she's willing to go out for you if need be, and that's all I can ask.
100%. All right, we got Chase Hooper taking on Jim Miller minus 900. Biggest favorite on the card is Chase the Dream Hooper. Jim Miller can be had for plus 600. I'll be quick about this one. Go back. We've watched Chase grow up in front of
Mm.
our eyes. He was signed from, Contender Series probably way too early, you know. Showed a lot of potential, a lot of skill. Lost to Caceres, in his third UFC fight. Loses to Steve Ocho Peterson. They're lining him up against like seasoned veterans who have kind of seen some tricks. Gets absolutely flatlined by Steve. If you've been around the block with us for a long time, we just call him Steve. Steve knocks his head off, kind of starts his move up to 155. And the kids came into his own now. It was a really quick fight, but it's just like seeing the comfort. I mean, it kind of started with the Borshev fight. He drops Borshev with like, I forget what it was. Was it
Left hand. Yeah.
left hand? But it's just like his striking has looked like it's like this kid's finally came into his own now. He's got more skills than before. Against Guida, like he's landing kicks, keeping range, winning all these scrambles. We always knew he was a great grappler. And Jim Miller is obviously a big test, a guy who definitely has more UFC fights than number of years that Chase Hooper has been on this planet. Um, I'm not stepping in front of Chase right now, though. Jim struggles with high pace, high intensity types of situations. Like the pace that Chase Hooper, and I know it was like, round one, it was pretty much done, but he did it against Borshev too. It's just like he is setting up and like the Fiore fight as well. It's like he can go 3 rounds at an excruciatingly high pace, scrambles all over the place. I know Jim Miller as much as anybody. I bet him as an underdog in a ton of different fights. I don't think Jim can do it. The problem here is like you look at like the late round props, you look at everything like that. They're all pretty juiced up. I think Chase wins. I don't know how I'm gonna really bet it. Maybe outside of like a long shot parlay or stuff or something like that. But um, yeah, mine is 900. I really don't know if there's any sort of meat on the bone, but like I think Chase Hooper absolutely rolls through him. I have no intentions of betting Jim Miller this week. What about you?
Yeah, honestly, I'm one of the guys that stayed on Chase Hooper the whole way through because like everyone was just writing him off as busted prospect, Sage Northcutt, no good, but he's so young that give this guy some time to mature and get experience. But the money train's left the building, man. Against Felipe Colares, we got him at plus 155. Against Nick Fiore, he was plus 110.
That's
Against
crazy.
Jordan Levitt, he was only minus 200. Against Vyacheslav Borshev, he was plus 115. And then the last two, it's unbettable. Like he's a 12-1 favorite over Clay Guida, and he's a 9-1 favorite over Jim Miller. So yeah, everyone's back on him all of a sudden, where it's like, oh yeah, that this kid's actually real good. But everybody knew about his BJJ, but it's like Paul mentioned, it's his cardio, it's his pace, it's The Colares fight, they'll tell you he landed 60 significant strikes. He lands 140 total strikes. It is a absolute mauling. And then he does the same thing against Tamor, right? It's the longer the fight goes, the more he builds up. He beats Jordan Levitt, puts a beating on him. You mentioned Fury, you mentioned Vyacheslav Borshev. The longer it goes, he really starts to build up. His striking has no doubt gotten a lot better. I wouldn't say he's a good striker by any stretch of the imagination, as much as he's a lot more comfortable. He can touch you with that left hand. He can use some range finders, but he wants to shoot the takedown. And then similar to a Virna Jandiroba in its own way, is that either he takes you down or a scramble is going to ensue. And he's so long and he's got such a great ability to find the back, to grab the leg, to transition and end up on top of you. And then once he does, it's ground and pound city, man. Just tons of volume, tons of pace. Jim's 42. He's the all-time UFC leaders in performances, but yet he's making money and they can't just have him fight the Jesse Butlers of the world forever. So at some point he needs to earn his paycheck. Now, there's two ways that Chase Hooper is and will win this fight. There's one, I think he's just going to outwork him volume-wise. It's not that he's a better striker. It is absolutely not that in the slightest bit. Jim Miller's got some good technical boxing. He's got a nice left hook of his own. I feel like technically Jim's the better boxer. It's the length, it's the proportions, it's the volume. Jim gets outworked 4-1, 3-1 against King Bobby Green, but he gets outworked 2-1 against Alex Hernandez. He gets outworked by Vince Pichel 2-1. He gets outworked by Scott Holtzman 2-1. He's a low volume guy. So if you just come out here and throw 70, 80, 90 significant strikes, you're going to outwork Jim Miller. Then the other thing is that the jiu-jitsu, he'll shoot the takedowns, he'll get them, he'll neutralize the position. In some ways, Jim Miller's already fought a very similar opponent to Chase Hooper, minus the ground and pound, is that Joe Selecki, right? Joe Selecki just only got BJJ, that's it. But he's really good at getting your back. Jim can't hang with him, man. He makes one mistake on the mat, and all of a sudden he's backpacked, and then that's the end of the round. So I feel like Hooper will do the same thing with, higher output and higher volume to it. Um, but of course, it's like at minus 900, do you take Chase Hooper inside the distance and disrespect Jim Miller? Or do you take Hooper by decision and say that Jim can fight off a lot of these positions? Truth be told, I honestly feel like Chase Hooper's going to drown him at some point. But does he feel bad? Does he feel bad that he's dribbling Jim Miller's head on the canvas like a basketball? Does he kind of have a little bit of pity if he's got him in a bad position? Does he chase submissions and try to thrill the crowd over keeping the position and landing some more elbows to the head? It's hard to say, right? The money line I really do not like, but I feel like Chase Hooper is just going to use that length, use that reach, eventually get him down. Last thing is Hooper's wrestling's not good, right? But look at the Clay Guida fight. It's the same thing. He will either get you down or you will be on top of him for 20 seconds and he's going to hit and escape and then reverse the position. So people are on Chase Hooper, who's not undefeatable. But if they want to keep booking this level of opposition, he should continue to look good.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think like that. That 3 minutes and 41 seconds against Guida, and I know Guida's been subbed by a bunch of guys, but a seasoned veteran is just like it was so fast and just so like crazy. And Hooper was just always a step ahead every step of the way. Just like he knew where Guida was going to go before Guida knew where the fight was going. Like it was pretty impressive. But what actually kind of impressed me in like watching tape on him is like how far is his hands and his striking have come along. Still, yeah, as you said, not a great striker by any stretch of the imagination, but like that was a massive hole in his game early on, and I think that hole's getting closed, and that's kind of scary for 41-year-old Jim Miller at this point. We got Juicy J, Julian Erosa taking on Darren the Damage Elkins. Juicy J a minus 330 favorite. The damage can be had for plus 270. What are your thoughts here, Code?
Yeah, like, do I see Erosa winning this fight? Quite possibly, but for the line just feels so off. Now, I've chased a few value picks on this card already, so this is not going to be one of them. I will take Julian Erosa, but the line, you just don't feel good about it. He's coming off a career best victory, in my opinion. He's got some nice wins on the resume, but he took a year off after that, right? He chokes out Christian Rodriguez, which beating Christian Rodriguez apparently ain't the biggest thing anymore, but to finish him, goddamn, that ain't easy at all. And then that's effectively not quite a year ago, but almost a year ago. Submission win over Ricardo Ramos, beat Hakeem Dawodu, the Charles Jourdain fight where he subbed him, knocked out Nate Landwehr, choked out Sean Woodson. No doubt about it that he's a very tricky operator. He, moves. We always called him like a methed out version of Dominick Cruz. Sets traps, moves his footwork. He ain't Dominick Cruz, But I mean, he's a very tricky guy to kind of get a read on. He loves to throw high kicks, loves to throw check left hooks, loves to throw winging kind of Luke Rockhold open stance stuff. But his chin's just not all that good. Fernando Padilla knocks him out. Bruce Leroy knocks him out. Sungwoo Choi knocks him out. Julio Arce knocks him out. Devontae Smith knocks him out. That one in just 46 seconds. On the regional scene, Bobby McIntyre, who was 5-4 at the time, knocked him out in the first round. He's been knocked out plenty of times. And so anytime he's a minus 300, you got to beware. He's a little bit older. He's had a bunch of pro fights. He's been knocked out a pile of times. I completely understand Darren Elkins is not a power puncher. But Julian Erosa gives up quite a few takedowns in a lot of these fights as well. So could Elkins not, in theory, just really grind him up against the cage, mix in some takedowns, make this a tough fight, wear on Erosa, hopefully tire him out, take advantage of something late? Quite possibly. But Erosa's gas tank's not bad. He's not one to gas. His volume's infinitely better than Darren Elkins is. His takedown defense, although it's been problematic in the past, is still good enough to likely keep the majority of this fight standing, and it's going to come down to a volume type game. I don't think he chokes out Elkins. I don't think he knocks out Elkins. So he's going to have to mind his P's and Q's and fight a smart game plan. But his volume is certainly a lot better than D Elk, who we see fight once a year now. He fought once in 2022, once in 2023. Sorry, once in 2023, once in 2024. This will be his one fight of 2025. He's taken a insurmountable amount of damage in his own career. He's no doubt slowing down. But when you talk about people that quit in fights, or people that will fight for your dollar, Darren Elkins will fight for your dollar. And when you give that kind of plus money, and a guy like Elkins, who will dig as deep as he needs to get the job done, you're never going to feel good about that. So I got Erosa. I got him just to outpoint him, use the superior volume, but I don't feel great about it, considering he's a 3-1 favorite.
All right, a couple of little fun stats before we get into this one. 13 fights ago was the last time Darren Elkins registered a knockdown. That was against Mirsad Bektic, who had all the skills,
He's a
but not
huge
much,
underdog in that
but
fight.
not much of a, not much of a chin. So like 13 fights ago, we're talking 2017. Been a long time. Luckily for Erosa, his biggest liability, which is his chin, Darren has not historically been the guy to cause damage there.
Remember
Elkins, on
Jesus
the other
Aguilar,
hand,
Paul?
what?
Remember Jesus Aguilar? And you told me, you're like, this guy's going to get knocked out. I said, Jesus Aguilar's never knocked out anybody. When you got a bad chin, you got a bad chin. It does not matter who's throwing the punches.
Elkins has also never been choked before. He got subbed once,
Charles
and it was
Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira, and it was an armbar.
Yeah.
2010 against Charles
The
Oliveira.
all the all-time UFC submission leader.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just laying these things out to kind of say that like the last two fights for Julian Erosa,
It was a dogfight.
submission by guillotine chokes. He's got a really nice guillotine. He sets it up really well. He's able to set it up from his back. He's getting taken down by his opponents. And then he gets his legs. He's got very long legs. He gets those legs high to block the escape. Ramos gets in there, gets those takedowns. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap. Like he's trying to roll out to side control and he can't get it out. Um, Rodriguez, kind of the same thing. They end up on the mat. I guess it was like a reversal or something like that. How it ends up getting there, but same thing. It's just like Arusa gets that guillotine, and both of those guys tap. I think it would be a big mistake for Julian Erosa to try to choke out Darren Elkins, who I think a Darren Elkins fight doesn't start until he's one, bleeding, and two, struggling to grasp air. Against Pineda, against who else? Darren Elkins out there against Pineda. He and against I believe it was maybe it was the TJ Brown fight. No, it was Minner. Minner, great guillotine, historically, right? He
Team Alpha
literally
Male, right? Known for the
serves
guillotine.
that neck. He just serves that neck up, basically, so he can get top position. And he doesn't stop moving. The moment that he grabs it, he's like, great, now I can get the takedown on you, ride this out from position. Like the escapes against Minner and the escapes against Pineda are just like, this is a guy who is literally giving you his neck so that he can get top position. So if I'm in Juicy J's corner, they aren't listening to me. Shouts to YC Lindsay, who says that, like, you know, who says that Erosa has better submissions than Charles Oliveira and better better striking than somebody else. It was kind of funny in the Discord yesterday. Um, I think it would be a big mistake by Erosa to try to submit him here. I know you fall in love with it. You've been doing it, but it's like I think his easiest path to victory here is like you're way faster, you're way longer, you're way slicker, and your opponent has, pillow hands here. Elkins really hasn't knocked out anybody. If you get knocked out by Elkins, then that chin is as bad as everyone thinks it is. But I think Erosa wins. I think Erosa wins by like probably a sweaty decision. Not in the sense that it's close, but in the sense that like Elkins almost dies multiple times from getting rocked but not quite dying. Over 2.5 is like minus 115. I don't hate it, but I think it's going to be pretty sweaty in that respect. Erosa by decision is like plus 160. Another, I don't hate it, but like that's how I see it shaking out. But
I don't mind
yeah,
that.
if he starts like I don't even know if I'm gonna actually bet those.
I'll take the over. I'll take the over.
I'm gonna watch the early part of this fight. Yeah, taking the over doesn't. I think that would be super sweaty, but it's like I'm gonna watch the early part of this fight, and it's like if I see Erosa trying to choke him, I may bet Elkins live because like I think that would be a big mistake. Like you can't choke this man. He likes it. He likes
Well,
it. He's got better cardio, better
yeah.
pace than you, and he just wants to find a way to get the fight to the mat.
The guillotine choke was known as Team Alpha Male's move, right? It was Uriah Faber's best move. It was Joseph Benavidez's best move. There's like it's a patented thing that like it's all college wrestlers with nasty front headlocks, with nasty front chokes, nasty guillotine chokes. So
Hmm.
no doubt he's traditionally trained quite well to defend guillotines. But you're right. If I can't take you down, that's problematic. If you're willing to pull guard on a guillotine choke and I can pop my head free, screw the takedown. I'm on top.
That's what he
So.
does.
Yeah, Elkins is so durable that if he wins or loses, chances are it's going to decision. And for
Hmm.
Erosa, he can finish guys. He's been finishing guys. But he can finish Elkins? Maybe not. I don't love the Erosa money line. It's 3-1, but an over
No.
2.5. I understand it's sweaty. I understand.
Yeah.
It's minus 115, So
Yeah. Every
price
Elkins over
definitely
is
better.
sweaty, basically, over the course of his career, but he gets over two and a
He
half
hits
pretty
overs.
much all the time.
I'm more worried about Julian Erosa. Does he
Yeah.
have a Shannon? Again, the Shannon Ross fight. You were like, Shannon Ross can't take a punch. It's like, Paul, Jesus Aguilar's never knocked out anybody. It's like, yeah, but Shannon Ross can't take a punch. What happens? He gets stiffed by a guy
Hmm.
who now has one knockout victory. I'm not saying that Julian Erosa is at that level, but he's been knocked out quite a few times. He's not fought in nearly
True.
a year. He's probably had a bunch of training wars. He's got 41 professional bouts on his resume. I've seen crazier things happen. I love this fight though. Two veterans both have a path to victory, so to speak. Sign me up for something like that. But yeah, time to move on and talk about is this the reinvention of Oh Baby Mike Oh, Paul Shaughnessy?
Yeah, I mean, this fight comes down to a lot of like narrative more than anything. Michal Oleksiejczuk takes on Cedric Dumas minus 190 for the Fighting Nerds, Polish superstar Michal Oleksiejczuk. Him and his brother Cezary Oleksiejczuk is they've been down there. They've been down there for the last like 6 weeks with Kaio. Apparently he was like calling Kaio and saying like after because him and Kaio fought and he's just like I gotta get down there, train with you guys, learn with you guys. Like he's just had and he's like he was so like I was listening to an interview with Kaio and he was just like he's just so respectful like in my DMs and stuff that like I was like okay like eventually we'll get you to come down there. So it's like he wanted to come down there so bad and like Mikey, oh baby, he throws hammers with the best of them. His wrestling his wrestling's actually always been okay. He's got ears as if he knows how to grapple, but the guy is like the reverse Darren Elkins. Like Darren Elkins, you can't strangle him. So it's like Mikey just somehow always gets strangled or submitted in some way, shape, or form. Going down there 6 weeks with this camp against an opponent in Dumas that like doesn't really have that. Like, I guess Dumas did submit with a guillotine choke, Matty Pinaz, which hindsight, Pinaz is a decent Euro level fighter. We break down I think we broke down one of his fights on like an Octagon card a couple months ago. Um, can the fighting nerds fix Mikey O? Because I am picking Mikey O, but a lot of it kind of comes down to like I think he's. I was looking at his Instagram and stuff. I've always believed in his power. I mean, this guy beat Khalil Roundtree at 205 pounds. It was flipped to a no contest after like a drug test or something like that. But like he beat Khalil Roundtree. There's no doubt the guy has always had talent. He just gets exploited in the grappling in a lot of fights. Can the fighting nerds fix Mikey O baby? Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, Paul. That's the $1 million question. And I think it's possible. Like when I think about how tenured this guy is, he's only 30 years old, but he's been in the UFC for 8 years. He's had 14, sorry, he has 15 fights in the UFC. Sports a 7-7 record with a no contest. But all the same, it's like he's accomplished a lot for his young age, and he's so reckless. He makes so many mistakes. The fact that he's gotten this far, interesting. Could a better team, could a better coach, could a better game plan help him out? I truly do believe it probably could. Paul mentioned his win over Khalil Roundtree. Yeah, it's at 205 pounds. He tested positive for clomiphene afterwards, so that's why it's a no contest. But he's 22 years old in his UFC debut against Khalil Roundtree. Pure striking match. He takes down Khalil twice, but just outworks him, has better cardio, beats him down the stretch at 205. All of these fights, for the most part, in the early portion of his career, are all 205. Jean Vellante, Gazmaran Antigulov, Alvis St. Preux, Jimmy Crew, Modestas Buskauskas, Shamil Gamzatov, all 205-pound guys. So at 185, it's like this is the weight class for him. He's a solid hitter. Offensively, he can mix in some wrestling. It's just he really fails to click it all together. What I will say is that he's just fought in the far better level of competition. He makes slight mistakes in all these fights, right? His fight with Kevin Holland, he arguably scores a knockdown, but he hurts Holland with a right hand early, falls him to the ground, gets armbarred. His fight with Shara Magomedov, it's 1-1 going into the third round. It's a close fight. His fight with Dustin Jacoby. His fight with Alvin St. Preux, he scores a 10-8 first round. In the second round, he shoots a takedown and gets Von Preux choked. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to gauge him sometimes. He's got all the talent in the world, but he fails to put it together. And that's what the fighting nerds will do for him is the game plan. Paul saying he was there for 6 weeks. I was under the impression it was a little bit longer, but in either scenario, Carol Barahau is cornering him. He is going to have the fighting nerds coaching staff with him. They've got obviously Gene Silva's on the card as well, so they've got that whole little team vibe going. And if he just sticks to the proper game plan, he's got better volume than Dumas. He's got better wrestling than Dumas. He's far more experienced. He's fought in high level of competition. Look at some of these guys he's fought. Khalil Roundtree, former title challenger. Alvin St. Preux, former UFC title challenger. Keo Barahau is going to be a future UFC title challenger. He knocked out Chidi Njokuani in the first round. Kevin Holland, big guy that's been at the top of the division at times. Michel Pereira, Shara Magomedov. All guys infinitely better than Sedriques Dumas. So if the old version of Mikey O shows up, I still think he can win this fight. If a slightly refined, better, more polished version of him shows up, he should be able to go out there and take out Dumas in droves. And for Cedric, we've never been, particularly fond of this guy, but his whole thing is that he's long. He's 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. That's his whole game plan. He's long, kicks up the middle, tries to grab a modified guillotine choke off the top. 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Mikey O has fought Kevin Holland, who's 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. He's fought Chidi Njokuani, who's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. He's fought Dustin Jacoby, his 6'3", Modestas Bukauskas, his 6'3", Alvin St. Preux, his 6'3", John Vellante, his 6'3". So this is nothing new to him at all. Then you look at Dumas in comparison. His wins in the UFC are Dennis Tulin, Abu Azaitar, Cody Bunridge. It's pretty low level, man. But Dennis Tulin, he's I think 1-3 in the UFC. Oh, sorry, his last 11 fights. 10 of them have ended inside the distance, win or lose. One has gone to decision. He's gone to decision one time in 6 years, Dennis Tulin. Yeah, against Cedric Dumas. Nobody goes to decision with Tulin. Fair. What about his fight with Abu Azaitar? He's 1-3 in the UFC as well. Yeah, it's a really close nip-tuck fight where Abu's taking him down. Cody Brunridge, talk about one of the worst fights you will ever see in your life. He's fighting a super low level. He's not exceedingly beating them. He averages slightly over 2 significant strikes landed per minute. No sense of urgency, no big power to him, other than snatching up a guillotine choke. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Questionable ring IQ. He's from Florida, so at least he's the local guy. But baby Mike O is not only going to beat him up standing, land the more impactful shots, slightly better volume. I truly believe he mixes in his takedowns. His offensive wrestling is not terrible. His defensive wrestling is really not great. But I think he's got more than enough to flip the script and take Dumas down, ground and pound him a little bit, outwork him on the feet, and eventually snare this thing up. So I'll take Oleksiejczuk to get the job done. Hopefully, Fighting Nerds got him in shape. His biggest takeaway was he feels like his condition is on another level. According to him in this interview I saw, the biggest thing is since going down there, they're pushing me. I feel so good physically. My cardio is real good. Well, that's kind of been the missing piece to his game. He's a one-round dynamo fighter. Give me 2 rounds and you can run away in the third for all I care. But if he's improved slightly, it should be good enough.
Yeah, 6 weeks to the day. It was February 23rd. Him and Cesare at a Polish airport heading to Brazil, and then you got uh, on like the 25th, him and Prates together. I watched some of the stuff. I was looking kind of closely at like some of the training videos and stuff for him down there. It seems like he's getting along. Him and his brother are getting along very, very well with everybody down there.
Well, his
So
brother
who
knocked
knows?
out Tom Breeze while he was down
Yeah,
there,
I
wasn't
bet
he?
I bet his brother against Tom
Yeah,
Breeze.
that's a quality win, man. Quality
No, no,
win.
no, no. That was February 15th. So
Oh, they
after
weren't down
basically
there.
he won that fight. I think it was in Croatia or whatever for I forget the name of the promotion.
Yeah.
Won that fight. They go back to Poland. They probably, partied up a little bit, and then they headed to Brazil together to go train with the fighting
Okay.
nerds. That's
Okay.
the time I've been following the Oleksiejczuks probably closer than their own damn mother. That's probably not true. Their mother's probably a saint and is following them very, very closely. But yeah, let's move on. We got 3 more fights, and yeah, we'll see if there's too much here. Sumudaerji takes on Mitch Raposo, minus 170 for Sumudaerji. Raposo could be after plus 140. I wanted to like find a way to get to Raposo here. I just didn't really see enough wrestling ability on tape. I think the length reach of Sumudaerji should kind of cause fits for Raposo. I know, Mudaerji has been exploited in the grappling against Tim Elliott, ditto against Matt Schnell. And obviously, he's coming off of a decision loss where he got knocked down, taken down twice by Charles Johnson. Everything I watched from Mitch Raposo just didn't, there wasn't enough volume, not enough control time. The wrestling just didn't seem elite enough. It's like Sumudaerji, he does get taken down in some of these fights, and like against Charles Johnson, but it's like he throws up some like half decent submission attempts to get back to his feet and stuff. It's like I lean towards the length, 72-inch reach, at 5'8" tall versus 64-inch reach. I give me the better striker. The number's not completely out of hand at minus 170. I think Sumudaerji is probably being a little bit undervalued in the market now, considering he's on a 3-fight skid. But feels like a fight that he can get back on track here. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm just going dog or pass on this one and end up with Mitch Raposo. Now I hear everything you're saying. It's like when you watch him, there's not enough sense of urgency out of him. He's not doing quite enough. I always talk about how I don't care if you got big power, but show me some volume, show me some tenacity, show me some, some grit and the desire to get the fight to the ground and get the spots that you want. But he's seemingly just going through the motions. What I will say though is he's still only 26 and he seems very athletic to me. He was a state champion in Massachusetts for wrestling in high school. I feel like wrestling is something he has in his back pocket. But instead of wrestling in college, he just jumped over to MMA. Been doing martial arts since he's 12 years old, and he's a BJJ black belt. When you see him though, it's like weird spots. Like he's on the Ultimate Fighter, for example. Okay, when he's on the Ultimate Fighter, he's 22 years old, loses to a 31-year-old Ludovic Shalinian. He's 22 or he's 24, young on tough. Comes out of tough, fights Jake Hadley on the Contender Series almost right away after losing on the Ultimate Fighter, which you don't see very often. But he takes Hadley down. He's looking good, and he just kind of runs out of gas, gets choked out. On the regional scene, he beats up everybody. Then they call him up short notice. He was supposed to fight on the Contender Series a second time. The UFC needs a guy short notice for Andre Lima. Now, Andre Lima, from what we see now, he's 11-0. He's dynamite. Raposo takes that fight on short notice. It's not an easy fight. Split decision. I couldn't tell you why it's a split decision. He loses a unanimous 100%. But there's a certain thing that you like about him. He moves well. He's got good footwork. He kind of moves darts side to side and then shoots in these takedowns. Lima's been using his own offensive wrestling to take down a bunch of guys lately, but Raposo at least does get him down a few times. Unfortunately, he's on short notice. He's not ready for a fight of this magnitude, and he loses again. He's now starting to fall into a role that he loses when he takes that step up fight. And I get that. But him on a full camp, which he's had here, with one opponent to focus on, still only 26, getting better and better, you should see a better version of him. Whereas Sumudaerji just finds ways to lose. Like he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He is very tall for the weight class. Southpaw, nasty straight left down the middle. But that's about it. He's got some power. He's got some length to him. When guys really put that grind on him, that's where they really give him a lot of problems. Matt Schnell taking you down is not a great look. Yeah, he almost has Schnell knocked out, but Schnell rocks him a few times as well, but ultimately catches him in the triangle choke. Paul mentioned the Tim Elliott fight. Tim just needed one takedown because as soon as it hit the ground, it's a beaten. It is a beaten. And then Charles Johnson. Everybody takes down Charles Johnson. This is one of the few times where Charles offensively uses his own wrestling to ground an opponent down. When I think about Mitch, what does he do well? Not a whole lot other than I think he's fast, he's explosive, and he does have a wrestling base. BJJ black belt, full camp for this fight. All he needs to do is take Sumudaerji down a couple times, and if he can't do that, I think Sumudaerji is a tad bit chinny as well. So I wouldn't say that if you're worried about the takedown the whole time, feint, 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 level change, level change, level change, come up over the top and crack him with the right hand. I think Mitch probably knock him out as well. Bottom line is he needs to fight a career best performance. Sumudaerji needs to be doing what he's been doing, which is lose these things down the stretch, right? He was fighting at 120. Oh, that's 125. Like Sumudaerji's struggling to make weight, man. I can almost guarantee you. He's big, long guy for the division, and he's getting older. That leaves him sapped for energy and unable to stuff those takedowns. Mitch has got to grind him. Listen, am I confident in it? No, absolutely not. Is it going to be low down? Absolutely. But it's a dogger pass spot. Sumudaerji's not the kind of guy I'm running to bet as a betting favorite. As much as he has a lot of talent, he just finds a way to lose, man. And the grappling's too big of an issue for me.
We got Marco Tulio taking on Trishan Gore. Tulio, a minus 365 favorite. Gore can be at for plus 300. Who you got?
Yeah, I get it. It's Tulio. Tulio all day. Tulio likely just going to try to catch him with something and knock him out. But, like, is Marco Tulio good? No. He's violent. He loves to throw his hands. He's got some big power, but he's limited in his own way. It's that Trishan Gore just shouldn't be in the UFC. Like, he got on the Ultimate Fighter with a 3-0 pro record. He made his UFC debut against Brian Battle. He had a 3-0 pro record. You can't just rush along a guy like this and expect them to have success in the UFC. How many guys do we see fight 10, 15 times in the regional? You watch tape on it and it's like, oh, his 7th pro fight, he was awful. His 9th pro fight, he's slightly better. His 11th pro fight, he starts to put it together. Gore hasn't had that luxury. He's like learning on the fly. And unfortunately, it's just been too difficult for him. He's 30 years old. He's not a young prospect. I can't say that he's getting all that much better. It's that his body's not physically holding up to the rigors of fighting. You go back to his planned UFC debut against Brian Battle, he pulls out because with a knee injury, right? So he thrashes his knee, needs to get it done, takes time off, right? His fight with Bo Nickel, July 8th, 2023, he pulls out tearing wrist ligaments, right? Fair. Then his fight with AJ Dobson, booked for February of 2024, he pulls out with a shoulder injury. Yes, he does eventually beat Antonio Tricoli, but he got a bad knee, a bad shoulder, a bad wrist. He's 30 years old. He's got a 5-2 pro record, like 7 fights altogether. He's low volume, not sold on his power, not sold on his submission game. Seems to fade the longer these fights go, and because the compounding injuries, you fight so infrequently, you're just never giving a best account of yourself. He's got a good guillotine choke. We talked about guys like Julian Erosa that might be able to lock it up. His last win over Tricoli, standing guillotine. His last 2 wins, really. He beat Josh Fremd as well. The Fremd fight, I thought he was losing until he latched up on the neck. So it's a fight. Anybody's dangerous. Anybody has the capabilities of maybe landing their one move. But besides that, it's like I just feel like Tulio's been a lot more active. He's got a lot more power. He's a little more confident here. This is technically speaking his 2nd fight in the UFC, but that fight over Ior Pateria, not the prettiest of fight going. But you see, if you want to stand with this guy, it's not going to go exceptionally well for you. Could Gore mix in the wrestling, mix in the grappling, push a pace on him, get him up against the cage? Maybe. I just don't think his body's really going to hold up. Some point he's going to get hit with something. He's not going to like it. And one of two things are going to happen. He's either going to go to the canvas and they're going to wave the fight off, or he's just going to get reluctant to engage, skirt on the outside and run away, minimize damage, take a moral victory by not getting finished, but not really go for it yourself, right? Another greasy prelim, I get it, but yeah, Tulio, I'll take him.
Yeah, I think he was pretty banged up for some of those earlier fights, but like there is 2 year period in between the Frem fight and the Tricoli fight that he's basically just completely off. Obviously tried to come back. And I suppose he had some fights booked, but the fights didn't actually go through. I'm not laying fucking does this make it on TV?
No, because it's the second
All
last
right.
prelim. Yeah, yeah. The TV
See,
only gets the
we did
first
so much
hour
stuff
and
on
10 minutes. So
we
we're past an hour and 10 minutes, your money.
all right. Well, remember that I threw a half F bomb. I'm so good at that. Not laying chalk on Marco Tulio. And now maybe it's because I was going through his Instagram and he's dating Big Norm. Him and Big Norm are an
Have you
item.
heard that Big Norm story about her last fight, her
No,
ex-husband? Oh, you
no,
didn't?
no.
So apparently her last fight, she finds out her husband's cheating on her, right? So
Okay.
she files for divorce. She's like, "You're out of here. We're done." But she's got to fight in 3 weeks, and he's her head coach. And by her own account, she's like, "There wasn't enough time for me to replace him as my head coach because I'm not vibing with another coach. I don't have somebody else that can corner me, and it was a big fight." So her ex-husband, who had been cheating on her, corners her for her last fight. And then now apparently she's with Marco Tulio. So listen, I think Big Norm's fine as fuck. Paul's gonna drop one, I'll drop one too. But yeah, Marco Tulio. I just don't think he's really all that well rounded. This is the kind of fight that could burn you. At least it's early in the card, but why even bother?
Yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Like I'm not laying the chalk. That's where when I drop my half F bomb is that I'm not laying minus. It'll probably be not minus 400 by fight time. I may take a shot on Gore, who when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, I actually looked at him as like and maybe it was just a bad season, but it's like he looked like he had some sort of potential on that show. I thought he had some. I don't know. I kind of bought into it. The TKO of Gilbert Urbina. I mean, none of it ever looks great in hindsight when you see how these other guys did over the course of their career. Chicoli hasn't been subbed, so you're gonna need more in terms of like the volume and stuff, which maybe Gore can't do. I'm under the impression that like in that Brundage fight, he was already kind of injured at that point in his career, and it was like just kind of patching along. Had a bunch of time off, came in, got the standing guillotine against Tricoli. I don't know. Dog or pass for me. I
Fair.
haven't bet it. There's so much going on this week. If you want more from us, I've been taping PFL. I'm gonna tape ACA basically after we're done here. Uh, PFL, LFA, ACA. Cody's doing unified. Um, yeah, there's so much going on this week. I don't necessarily need to force anything here, but it's a dogger pass. The official pick will be Trishan Gore and maybe a dog play on Saturday when all that parlay steam comes in. I'll take a little shot on Gore here. Never really rated Tulio. Watching some of his fights back, I was just like, I'm looking for a way. Maybe Gore's not the guy, but they're giving me a price that's like not going to kill me to die trying, I suppose. Finally, we got Nora Cornhole taking on Haley Cowan. Cornoli is a minus 175 favorite. Cowan can be after plus 145. Cowan's basically not fought, like, basically just hasn't really fought in the UFC. She seems to pull out a lot. She misses weight. She seems to be a pretty one-dimensional grappler when she has gotten in there. Um, she
3 years
struggles
of
to
free
get
healthcare in exchange for one fight. Pretty good deal,
struggles
really.
to get takedowns and can't really hold Horth down in that UFC fight that she did have, and that was after coming in, a pound and a half heavy. Like I suppose there is a world where Because you look at Cornoli and her like best win is against Mullins, and Mullins definitely does have success early in that fight, body lock takedown. But Cornol shows some like ability to get sweeps. I think she's a lot more physical. I think it's minus 175. It's not so crazy. I want the girl who seems like to be frothing at the mouth to be in there in the cage in front of a crowd fighting, as opposed to Cowan, who, frankly, everything that I've kind of seen for she wants to stand in cage control. Most of her fight is trying to avoid the fight. So, um, better striker, more violent. I think it's cornhole all day. And the good thing about this, Cody, is it's the first fight on the card. So if it blows it all up, well, you can rebuild and figure it all out. But cornhole for me, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's not like there's anything about Cornoli's game that I overly enjoy, but yeah, I mean, she's a French Muay Thai fighter. She's got nice knees to the body within the clinch, and she seems to fight with some decent volume. Her debut against Jocelyn Edwards, I had Edwards. I kind of thought Edwards won, but it's a fight. It's not a wrestling match. So she gets taken down 5 times. She gets controlled for the vast majority of it. She outlands Jocelyn Edwards 40 to 18. More than doubles her up. Short shots to the body, short little elbows inside the clinch. Her fight with Melissa Mullins, Paul mentioned, it's a knee to the body, right? Again, that's where she excels. The third fight with Calvacanti, it's a weird one. So she's originally supposed to fight Jermaine Durandamy, which is a former champion. This is a huge fight. Durandamy pulls out. In comes Jacqueline Calvacanti, who's just got really good volume. And even though I thought Calvacanti won fair and square, it was a good fight. Cornoli kind of keeps pace with her. She lands just as much.
Hmm.
I feel like she's 35. She's a Muay Thai girl. The other skills are not really gonna catch up, but for what she does, yeah, she's going to be serviceable enough. Haley Cowan is similar to Jocelyn Edwards, is that she's looking to spam takedowns, as Paul mentioned. Either I get the takedown or I'll hold you up against the cage, but she's really low on any type of significant strikes landed. Cornoli, meanwhile, is going to be defending takedowns, but defending takedowns and smashing up the side of your head with a couple elbows, smashing up your body with a couple knees, reverse position up against the cage, slam a few, knees to the thigh. Cowan's first fight is Friday, which is making weight. Then Saturday she needs to go out there, and if she's game plan's going to be grapple and hold her down and clinch her up against the cage, you're going to have to do it for 15 hard minutes, which coming off a hard weight cut, I'm not necessarily sure happens. I didn't think she looked terrible against Jamie Lee Horse, but one, she missed weight, and two, it's like she's getting beaten, she's getting outworked, she's getting out hustled, she's getting out, damaged, but she mixes in a few takedowns. Fair, that might happen in this fight as well. But if the judges are scoring damage, I'd love to say live crowd in Florida, but it's the first fight on the cart. There will be nobody there at all, I would assume. I need the judges to get it right. Who's landing the more impactful blows, and more of them should be Nora Cornoli. So again, I don't love this girl's game, but it's effective. It's effective against someone like Haley Cowan that's looking to cling on to you and just slow the pace down. Those short little shots should add up. We're at the mercy of the judges to get it right. So I will take Nora Cornole. Like Paul said, good thing first fight on the card, but don't put yourself in a position where you have so much investment on
Don't
a
get
women's MMA
cornholed
fight.
this week.
Yeah, between
Don't
a
get
35
cornholed.
year old, a 35-year-old versus a 33-year-old who has weight cutting issues. Don't put yourself in that position. 100% don't do it to yourself. So the pick is Nora Cornole, and I am a degenerate, so I will have some action on it. But don't have any super high expectation. I think it goes the full
Lock
15
of the
minutes.
year. That's what I
Yep.
heard, Cody. Lock of the year.
You know what you could do, Paul and I talk about this every week, is that this is a prime candidate for a split decision because you've got a fight that's likely going full 15 minutes. One girl's going
Maybe.
to outwork her volume wise, but will give up control time. The other girl will rack up control time, but won't land any significant damage. It's subjective. It goes full 15 minutes. It's a scorecard read in Florida
Cornhole may finish
and
her.
split decision.
Cornhole may finish her.
Maybe because Melissa Mullins, but I've never been catfished as bad as I have with Melissa Mullins, who was a Melissa Dixon, first of all. I don't know where this Mullins came from, but
It's
whoa, she
true.
looked okay on the regional scene. She really did. And in the UFC, she is just awful. What can you do, Paul? You live and you learn, right? You
You live and
live
you learn.
and you learn.
There's always another fight, whether it's the next day, the day after that, or the next week. You just dust yourself off and move on. Anyway, We're just about out of time. But before we go, Cody, hit him with the PRP.
PRP this week, we are going with. Sorry, let me just bring it up to the top. Want to make sure I get the right order. Yeah, we're going to go with Alexander Volkanovski. He's technically the favorite. Michael Chandler, dog number 1. Bryce Mitchell, dog number 2. Yair Rodriguez. Dominick Reyes, dog number 3. Dan Ige, dog number 4. Xiaonan, dog number 5. Chase Hooper, Julian Erosa. Oh, baby Mikey O, Oleksiejczuk. Mitch Raposo, dog number 6. Marco Tulio. Don't fall for the price, though, man. That guy's not trustworthy. And then Nora Cornole, so... Hey, listen, I got 600 dogs. I'm not going to force anything more than that. Will all hit? I don't know. But if they do, if this was the week we hit the PRP, lots of value to be had. But which ones will come through remains to be seen. Bottom line is there's so much more regional stuff going on as well between the PFL on the Friday. There's an LFA on the Friday. The Unified's on the Saturday. The ACA's first thing.
Friday morning,
Friday morning? I think it's Saturday morning.
Is it Saturday? That would be even better.
EFC's Friday morning, but I'm not touching that. And then of course this UFC card. It's like, again, if I can just hit a few value plays from here, the few value plays from there, then that's all I'm looking to do. But the PRP, if there was going to be a week, just because of the amount of underdogs that we're going to roll with this week, I think that this one would possibly be one of the finest yet. Remains to be seen. Long uphill climb before we get there, Paul. But how do you climb a giant hill? Well, one step at a time. So let's do it. That one step is unfortunately Nora Cornole versus Haley Cowan. And then we got a bunch more greasy ones after that. But I'm confident we could have a fun week this week.
You're fake news, bro. ACA. Friday, April 11th.
It is Friday morning.
Yeah, it's in Belarus. Nah, I'm gonna hop into the tape on that. We have so much going on every single week. So yeah, if you want more from us, links in the description. If you don't, we'll see you again. We'll see you again next week for another round of UFC picks. And then I think there is no card next week.
No, there isn't.
I'm actually gonna be in Vegas next week for a wedding, and I'll probably still be taping all the regional stuff over on the other. So if you miss me next week, well, you can find me. Just click the link in the description there to get on the Patreon and get to the Patreon and the Discord. And I'm always kind of alive and well over there. But there's so much going on these days. It's like I just kind of keep to myself and I watch tape an obscene amount of time of my week. But it's been working out pretty well. It's only worth it when you're making money, and it has been going quite well over the first 3 months of us doing that. So yeah, you can usually find me over there. I dip my head in a few times, but otherwise it's so busy. It's just like I don't have too much time to waste on anything except for trying to find some more winners all over the damn globe. But that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Jared and Cody Saptic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Ow, ow, ow.